Hello, everyone. This is Valentina Canese, and I will be sharing with you today part of a research project that we're conducting in Paraguay about the use of ICT in Paraguayan public schools. This is part of a project financed by CONACYT, Paraguayan Funding Agency. And my colleagues, Roberto Páez, Jessica Amarilla, and Pamela Rodríguez have helped me in conducting this study. It's part of a larger study. We will be sharing the results of a preliminary pilot validating study that we did in order to validate our instruments before the actual full study. The name of this presentation is the use of ICT in educational institutions in Paraguay and the factors that intervene. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to share this with you today. The problem that took us to presenting this project is that ICT could be in education implies a complex process that also involves integrating new pedagogies into instruction. And there are many difficulties that come into play, especially in Paraguay. We have a situation where very few studies had been conducted in regards to the use of ICT in education. And the issue of access has been one of the main problems presented to Paraguayan educational institutions. Therefore, we found the need to conduct this study. The research purpose and questions that guide this study have to do with finding information about the use and scope of ICT in the classroom, including teaching experience in secondary education in Paraguay in order to inform future decisions and propose solutions to improve secondary education. It seeks to describe teachers' experiences in the use of technological tools in the classroom for teaching various subjects in order to better understand the opportunities and challenges that they face when implementing ICT in the classroom. The method use, as I mentioned, this is part of a larger mixed method study with an embedded qual-quant design. The exploratory phase includes a qualitative aspect with the use of focus groups that will not be presented in the study, and then a quantitative pilot study to apply then later a qual post-validation treatment. And so this presentation is based on the validation of the quantitative instrument that it was based on a survey questionnaire adapted from Wozni, Venkatish, and Abrami, and included 30 questions about ICT use in the classroom, teacher knowledge, teacher training, institutional support, and other demographics. Cronbach alpha test was conducted with a result of a 0.95 confidence level. The pilot study included 117 participants who were all secondary teachers from 14 out of 17 departments in Paraguay, which is about 15% of the expected sample. Later on, we conducted the full study with a sample of about 800 teachers. The quantitative analysis, the data was processed using Microsoft Excel, and then SPSS 21 was used to conduct the univariate and multivariate descriptive analysis. Also, chi-square and T-students tests with 95% confidence level were conducted, as well as an exploratory factor analysis. First of all, the first thing that we were interested in finding out was what's the access like for teachers and their students. And according to the teachers in this study, both teachers and students have from extremely poor to fair access in their educational institutions. Especially students do not have very good access according to the teachers in the study. Likewise, Also, if we look at student access to ICT at school, we can see that there's a difference between urban and rural students, who with rural students having extremely poor access, much more than urban students, and urban students having much more very good to excellent access than the rural students. If you can see there, rural students have zero very good to excellent access to ICT. In terms of ICT knowledge, most teachers consider themselves to have average to general knowledge in the use of ICT, whereas very few teachers consider themselves to be experts, and few teachers also consider themselves to be advanced. So most teachers rated themselves in the middle rather than in the extremes, including newcomers and experts. In terms of the factor analysis was conducted about teachers' perceptions about ICT. Out of 30 variables in the questionnaire, 3 factors were found that explain 75% of the total variance. And out of those 3 factors, the first one, which accounts for 57% of the total variability of that 75%, it's related to students. And so teachers found or consider that ICT can motivate students to become more involved in the learning activities. It can promote the development of communication skills, such as writing and presentation skills. And also ICT can help accommodate students' personal learning styles. Now, in terms of the second factor, accounting for 14% of the total variability, refers to the learning environment and how it might hinder the implementation of ICTs in terms of requiring too much time to be spent on technical problems. Some teachers also mention that it might be unnecessary because students learn computer skills on their own, and it requires training in time-consuming software skills. Now, the third factor refers to teaching and how ICTs can be effective if teachers are involved in the selection of computer technologies, and it can improve professional development. In regards to the variables accounted for ICT integration, there were 34 variables in the questionnaire, which were grouped into 7 factors, identified totaling 70% of the total variability. And if you can see here, those that are larger are the ones that have the most significance. So, for example, ICTs are integrated mainly for planning requirements and formal presentations of documents associated with the development of classes. Also, development of classes through virtual platform and the technical pedagogical training implications. A little bit less for development of teaching and audiovisual materials and requirements of the syllabus of the subjects being taught, and even less as means of communication with colleagues and students, and much less as curriculum adjustment or promotion of research and innovation in the classroom, which is something. On the one hand, it is good that it's the teachers see this as the promotion of research as something good, but it's a much smaller percentage than the more administrative aspects. Now, in regard of the knowledge of virtual education teaching methods before and during the pandemic, teachers actually, you can see that teachers mentioned that their knowledge of virtual education teaching improved significantly. This pilot study was conducted exactly about a year after the pandemic started. So that is the beginning of the school year 2021 in Paraguay, which is during the month of March. And so 1 year after the pandemic, you can see that many more teachers consider themselves to have very good or excellent knowledge of teaching methods, as opposed to the previous year where they had much less knowledge. Now, in terms of ICT integration, this is actually one of the areas where it shows an optimistic a trend, given that many teachers consider themselves above the familiarity level. Many of them consider themselves being at the adaptation or creative application levels, which is that they're already they're familiar with the technology and now they're adapting it to their own needs. And many of them, as much as 44% of them, can apply the technology in creative ways according to their needs to the classroom. In conclusion, we find that most teachers surveyed in this pilot study consider themselves to be average to experts in terms of their level of competence in the use of technological tools for the development of classes. No differences were recorded in these competencies by geographic area of residence or language use in the development of classes, which is interesting considering that Paraguay is a bilingual country and urban areas are much more Guarani speaking than urban areas where Spanish is the dominant language. The main difficulty mentioned by teachers, both for them and their students, is the access to technological tools in the educational institution where they work. And this is evidenced by the low tendency towards the condition of excellent access. 3 factors were identified in relationship to teachers' professional opinions on ICT. We show the recurrent thought towards the improvement of students' learning conditions. Factor number 1 of the 75% explained, 50% correspond to factor 1, whose variables are related to the motivation and possible performance of students, 14% related to the variables that mention the technical and pedagogical difficulties of technology-mediated education, and the remaining 4% with factor 3 is related to issues of teachers' professional development. Regarding the degree of appropriation of technologies, teachers indicated that COVID-19 has been an accelerator for their use, since they are not only used for teaching in the classroom, but also for aspects of planning, organization, evaluation strategies, multi-directional communication channels, answers that have been organized in the 7 factors obtained in this pilot study. Now, based on this preliminary study, a probabilistic sample of all secondary teachers in Paraguay was carried out to measure the use and appropriation of ICT in the official educational institutions, which is now in the stage of data analysis. In this way, so we expect to contribute to a better understanding of the main factors that affect the use of ICT by teachers, one of the main educational agents. Thus, we expect to inform public policy so that decisions can be made to help enhance the role of ICT in education and ensure access to and use of these tools. To conclude, I would like to say that after this pilot study, and now that we're in the process of analyzing these initial findings, we are finding some of these preliminary findings are being confirmed, while others are being expanded. And we've also conducted follow-up in-depth group interviews to elaborate on why teachers consider that these findings may have come out the way they have. I would like to thank everyone for their attention. These are our contact information. If you would like to contact us for any reason, we will welcome any inquiries. Thank you very much once again, and I will see you anytime.